Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 69 of Third and Wrong. I'm your co-host, Stephen Bolin, and with me, as always, is Austin Dallalonga. Austin, how are things in Medicine Hat?
Things are just freaking peachy, Steve.
Nice.
I'm excited for today's episode. Just super stoked with what's upcoming here.
You bet. Zach's out for another week. We're hoping to have him back in 2 weeks. So he's taking care of some of his professional endeavors. So not that we're not professional, but you get the idea. All right, Auzzie, let's cut to the chase here. Over the last week, Cam Newton has signed with the New England Patriots on a veteran minimum deal. I mean, you can't really believe it because we joke about it all the time. Not the Panthers, God, the Patriots are going to sign like all these guys on veteran minimum deals, and then it finally happens with the former MVP quarterback, the offseason that you lose Tom Brady, and it's like you just can't write this stuff. But we all kind of saw it coming. Like I think it was all in the back of our minds, even though it's like New England has zero interest in Cam and they're fully in on Stidham. But you always kind of felt like maybe if there's an injury or closer to camp, they'd make a move. And sure enough, here it is. But I'm going to stop blabbering. I'm going to go to the Pats fan on this pod. Auzzie, I want your initial reaction and then how you feel about it a few days later.
All right. So initial reaction was I was actually camping earlier this week when the signing happened. So I had no cell service. So I get cell service on Monday. I had received a text on Sunday night from our buddy Andrew Meyer, also a Patriots fan. It was just Cam Newton in a Patriots jersey. I texted him back. I said, that would be so cool. And then he texts back. He's like, it already happened, you schmuck. And when I heard that, I mean, as much as I love Jarrett Stidham and I think he could still very well be the starter to start the season, I'm freaking stoked that Cam Newton is a quarterback in the Patriots locker room. So when I found out that it was legit, I was like, holy crap, let's go. And you can attest to this because you, Tomac, and Zach have jokingly referred to me as a Panthers fan for many years because of the Madden franchise that I started as the Panthers because of Cam Newton. So Cam Newton has always been one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, and now he's just on my favorite team, so no big deal there. Just going to lead us to a Super Bowl. That's how I feel a couple days later, to answer your second question, Steve. We get a healthy Cam. I mean, he was out for most of the year last year. He didn't look all that great. Supposedly it's because of his foot injury and shoulder injury. And now you get a healthy Cam coming back. Whew. I think
angry Cam, like
hungry and angry.
Yeah.
And he's on the vet min. He wants respect.
Yeah.
Put some respect on that man's name for a year, and let's just go get a Super Bowl real quick without Tom Brady. That would be what a year 2020 would be if the Patriots go and still win the Super Bowl without Tom Brady.
Oh man.
But realistically speaking, I'm still I'm tempering expectations because he has that injury history, and you know, Jarrett Stidham still is unproven if he happens to be the quarterback, but you know that Cam Newton can play at an elite level, and he has done so. So, and me and you have been vocal about him on the pod for even though we were kind of wrong between him versus Tannehill last year.
Stats
wise, I still wholeheartedly believe in Cam Newton, and I'm super stoked.
Yeah, that's really great. It's awesome that you're camping. That just adds to the story that of you being the Pats fan and everything. That's pretty hilarious. My initial reaction was just like a lot of like, are you kidding me? Like, of course this happened. But my second thought was I was just really happy for Cam that he signed on with someone. He shouldn't have to wait for a camp injury to get a chance to go compete for a starting job. Like he isn't Josh McCown looking for a backup spot. This is a former MVP quarterback we're talking about. And I, for one, now that Brady's gone, it's weird. Brady and the Patriots together, I just hate them. But now that they're apart, like I'm kind of really excited to see what he's going to do with the Bucs, and I'm really excited to see what the Patriots are going to do without him. But together, I hate them. It's kind of weird. But yeah, I'm really excited for Cam, and I hope he lights it up, man. As much as it would pain me to see the Patriots just maintain their dominance that they've had in the AFC over the past 20 years, I mean, the story kind of writes itself. Like redemption, and then getting to go play for a coach who is just, has just lost his franchise quarterback of the last 20 years. And he's looking to prove that he can do it without Tom Brady. And what better quarterback to go in than with Cam Newton. I think a lot of the Brady haters would have preferred to see him try to just go with Stidham, just to see if he could take another kind of project quarterback. And if he produced with Stidham, then it would have been like, oh, it was all Belichick and not Brady. But at the end of the day, Belichick just wants to win, and he's going to do whatever it takes to ensure he has that roster to go out and win a Super Bowl or compete for championships. So him signing Cam Newton isn't a surprise for me when that caliber of a quarterback is on the market. So I'm really excited for Cam. I can't believe it's a veteran minimum deal. It kind of irks me, but hey, light it up this year and then go get paid next year. I think he could get a really respectable contract at 33 or 32. He'd be at the end of next offseason. So I'm really fired up for him. And I think this immediately upgrades the Patriots back into playoff contention. I know Colin Cowherd wasn't too high on him. He was saying, he'll bring excitement and this and that. But I think Colin redid his records and said they'd get to 9-7. I predicted 6-10 with Stidham. I see 10-6 with Cam Newton. And I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, can Cam understand this offense? It's like, let's not assume Cam's a dumb quarterback here. He's played with multiple offensive coordinators in Carolina, and they actually use the same system. It's called the Erhardt-Perkins system. And so I was doing some reading. There's three kind of main offensive philosophies in the NFL. You got the West Coast offense. You got the Air Coryell system, which is what the Seahawks run. And then take a drink. I mentioned the Seahawks unsolicited. And then you have the Erhardt-Perkins system, which Cam ran with a couple different coordinators, including Norv Turner from 2012 to 2019. So a lot of the terminology is actually the same as what he'll be using in New England. It might just mean there's just the naming's different of it in a way. So it's not like he's a rookie quarterback coming in like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Like Cam's a smart quarterback. He's not just going to be out there, disregarding whatever Josh McDaniels calls and calling his own number. Like Cam's a very smart quarterback, and I think he can make the proper reads in that system. And, it involves a lot of running back passes. I read this article. There's a lot of film with him in Carolina that using McCaffrey and Frosty Whitaker. Is it Frosty?
Forrest? No.
Forrest?
No, I think that's a fighter. Never mind. I don't know.
Oh, God. Anyways, using his running backs in the passing game. So I think Cam immediately injects life into this franchise that desperately needs it after Brady left, and then to a little hot sauce in the wound to have Gronk get traded as well and come out of retirement just to go play with Brady on the Bucs. So, and he's going to be back with a vengeance. So I think this immediately upgrades the Patriots. People assuming that Cam's too dumb to learn another playbook at 30 years old that's just misguided and, just wrong. So I'm not even going to acknowledge that as a debate. So yeah, I'm really excited for Cam. I think 10-6, this improves their team vastly.
Oh yeah. I like what you said there, Steve, kind of going to bat for him. Like, I don't know why people would think that the Patriots are going to put their quarterback, possibly their starting quarterback. And I keep saying possibly because we don't know what happens in camp, right? Mm-hmm. But with a MVP caliber quarterback, you're right. Like, it just doesn't make sense to say that he can't learn something. And we know the Patriots are going to put their players in the best positions to win, and they're not going to overwhelm Cam with this terminology that, or whatever, this system that apparently this 31-year-old MVP winning quarterback can't understand. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And like you said, it's misguided. That's a good way of putting it. I was just looking up this stat actually against Cam Newton versus the Patriots. He's 2-0. He had 2 games against us, had 525 passing yards, 106 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. And his passer rating was 128.2 and a yards per attempt of 9.2. So it's no wonder that Bill Belichick saw that and he was like, I don't like getting that against me. I'm going to go take him on my team.
There's a quote from Belichick before that 2017 game when you guys, I think I just read it somewhere, that you guys just beat the Houston Texans in that thriller game against rookie Deshaun Watson. And then you guys had to go play Cam Newton and the Panthers the next week. And they're asking Bill about Cam. And he said, there's a lot of good mobile guys out there now. And he's like, I don't want to put any of them down, but he goes, Cam might be the best at doing what he does in terms of his ability to pass and run the ball. And then he said something, I forget what the exact quote was, but he said, it might be the hardest player to ever game plan for. And it's like, wow. So, I mean, you can imagine like now he has that tool on his team, like that ability and to be able to deploy that against other defenses now. Like him and McDaniels must just be laughing.
Oh yeah, they're licking their chops right now, I bet you.
Yeah.
And for the vet men too, like the Patriots don't have a lot of cap space, and they get a guy who's willing to meet that contract and on a prove it deal. Let's go.
And so, Auzzie, when we did our Patriots predictions, you didn't really give records when we did our AFC East predictions. First kind of number that comes to your mind right now, and I'll ask you another question to top it off. Can this Pats team compete with the Ravens and Chiefs now? Or is it too early to say?
That's a very good question, Steve. Yeah, I'm with you. I actually thought 10-6 immediately as soon as I heard that he was on our team. Just 10-6, a very safe number. Maybe it's a little cowardly because I think that with the defense coming back as it is, and you've still got a lot of pretty good weapons on offense, maybe you could say a little bit higher, but I think 10-6 is a nice safe answer. And as far as competing with the Ravens and the Chiefs, oh my goodness. I'm gonna say yes, but it's because of the defense again. Not to say that Cam can't go toe-to-toe, because he's proven in his career that he can go toe-to-toe with some of the great offenses. But for me, it's, can the Patriots as the team separate or compete with those other teams? And I think it does come down to defense. So can you slow down Mahomes for one more drive than you can? And can you slow down what's his nuts? Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So there's but that's the defense. And I think the Patriots do have the pieces to do that. So I say, heck yeah.
There we go. So we'll be very eager to see how that all unfolds. And yeah, I'm just really happy for him. It's about time now. If only a team could sign Kaepernick next.
Yeah.
Interesting video came across everyone's feeds a couple nights ago. It was Russell Wilson practicing football in he has his own like 100-yard field in his backyard in like California. And who else was there but Antonio Brown in his in his Raiders helmet without the Raider logo on it, catching routes from Russell Wilson. And a lot was to be said about this one. And the reaction on Seahawks Twitter actually was quite, how would I put it? Quite perplexing. Like there was a lot of people saying like, sign him, I don't care at what cost. And a lot of people saying like, hey, you know, he has 2 rape allegations against him. You know, he may have beat the mother of his child, and you know that's off the field. And you have to talk about what the hell happened on the last 2 franchises he was a part of. You know, week 17, the Steelers are playing a football game, and he decides he doesn't want to play that game. You know, it's like, and I think it was Evan Hill that put it like, you know, it's week 17 against the Niners, and Antonio Brown decides he doesn't want to show up. Like, what do you do? And so I'm pretty torn on this one because, I mean, we've seen a variety of players play in the NFL who have a lot of skeletons in their closet. But knowing what we know now, it'd be very weird to see the Seahawks sign him. But then on the same token, Russell Wilson's visibly practicing with him, and he's not keeping it a secret. Like, this is going on their Instagrams and they're advertising it. So maybe Russell's had some really good conversations with them, or maybe, you know, those other cases are still playing out in court. I don't know. But if Russell wants him and he's willing to take a discount, and you're trying to build a team around Russell, and Russell before this offseason asked for more weapons. Like, he wanted firepower on this team. I think you got to do it, or you got to sign Josh Gordon. And that's what we're going to get to it later. Would you rather have Josh Gordon or AB? Both obviously come with their risks, but what's your take on the kind of more moral high ground as it comes to NFL teams signing players with checkered off-field issues?
Yeah, that's a tough question. And, you know,
your employer's watching this, Auzzie. Don't
exactly. Yeah, you can't disregard what's happened, and it's black and white, I think, when it comes to domestic violence and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if he did commit those acts and it comes to pass that that's actually what happened, and he does get charged with those, then I don't think he should play another snap in the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you would agree with that. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Talent aside, yes, he's an all-star receiver, maybe one of the best to do it, top 2, top 3. But at the end of the day, that's something that clouds somebody for forever. And just from a football standpoint too, like you said, Steve, what happens with the Steelers when he doesn't want to play in a pivotal game? And then the Raiders fiasco. Yes, he was doing good with the Patriots, and then all of a sudden he starts sending texts to people like harassing his ex or something like that, or the victim that was accusing him. So like that alone should be reminded in Seahawks Twitter's memories, because that doesn't just go away. Time doesn't heal that wound right now. Like I think that we do have to kind of draw a line in the sand and just say enough is enough. Like you can't keep getting away with this. There's so many examples of players in the NFL who maybe shouldn't be in the NFL and who have had that history of violence and whatnot. So I think that you got to put the talent aside and just say no bueno. If things come to pass in court and everything and he's cleared of all charges, then it's another story, right? But as of right now, as far as I know, things are still playing out. So that's where I stand on it. I think that you would agree with that too. And so as of right now, I think that it would be an attractive pairing, the Russell Wilson to Antonio Brown connection from a football standpoint, but the off field is just too not good.
I think I'd almost rather see him go back and get Josh Gordon. I mean, he's had his problems with substance abuse, and he's booking his reinstatement now because in the new NFL CBA, I don't have this word for word, but I believe marijuana is no longer a suspendable offense anymore at this rate. So, which the right move, it's about, however many years overdue. So if he gets reinstated and, I hope his mental health is good first and foremost, I'd love to have Josh Gordon back on the Seahawks because he was showing flashes there. Flash Gordon.
Flash.
See what I did there? Oh, you got it. So he was showing flashes there, and that was like signing him or picking him up off waivers mid-season. And I say a full off season, but no one's having a full off season right now, but he still obviously understands the playbook. We haven't changed offenses. Get him back in there with Metcalf and Lockett and Carson at running back, and we have kind of retooled the offensive line. You have a pretty dynamic offense there, and the same could be said if AB signed as well. AB, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. Like, it's on paper, it's beautiful, but you can't just sweep that other stuff under the rug because life's more important than football, and we shouldn't be rewarding those who have, committed some pretty heinous acts with fame and glory. But that's what we do in society. But this podcast doesn't go that deep. Auzzie, one more thing. I don't have it in the notes, but it's a pretty interesting topic, and I wanted your take on it. The NFL is considering getting fans to sign waivers to come to see games this offseason, or not this offseason, this season. So you sign a waiver saying, if I catch COVID at this stadium, I'm basically not going to sue the hell out of the NFL. And I imagine, I'm not sure if they'd even have concession stands open. They'd probably tape off every 2 seats or whatever they do to make it as safe as possible. But if you're saying living in Foxborough and this opportunity presents itself, or you're living in any NFL city, I won't say for us here in Canada because it would take a lot of logistics to get there, and I'm not sure if I would. But if you're living in an NFL city, would you go see a game if you had to sign a waiver to basically relieve the NFL for any responsibility of COVID?
I would say hell yeah. Not that I think that COVID is not serious or anything like that, but I just think for me, I would just maybe it's because I don't live in an NFL city. I just value the NFL that much. But I was just thinking, as soon as you told me about them signing waivers, my first thought was, all right, Steve, we're going to the Seattle New England game. So, I think that I would totally do that. I mean, I'm a rather healthy 23-year-old. So, there's my age on for everybody else to enjoy. So I don't know what you can do with that, but there you go. But yeah, I'm rather healthy. So I think that I like my chances as far as surviving COVID. So I think it's worth the risk.
Yeah, I'm to an extent. I'd go, but I'd hope that they have a policy where every person in there has to be wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
I'd wear a mask myself, obviously, and then I'd probably if you're allowed to bring in your own hand sanitizer, just have that. And then like you have the bathrooms open, but there you don't, concession stands are closed. Like you're basically going there for the game and then you leave, and you probably got to let each side of the stadium leave at once. I don't know how it's going to work. I'd really want to make sure it's safe before I'd go. And I mean, yeah, we've been to grocery stores and different things, and but it's still like you're talking about, even if it's not 60,000 people, you're talking about 30,000 people if they go 50% capacity. And that's still a lot of, that's a petri dish of festering.
And they're all screaming and yelling and spit's just coming out. And
yeah. Like they're worried about people singing, and you got the 12th man just from their chest, just
exactly.
So yeah, I thought interesting thought, but I mean, another conundrum too is if that person goes to an NFL stadium, contracts COVID, and then goes to a grocery store after, like, and now because it's not like a one-stop shop, right? Like you get it, and it still goes on when you leave the stadium. So
exactly,
is the NFL being responsible by even having this option available? But the NFL, And then one last part of our news recap here before we get into the NFC South predictions is FedEx and PepsiCo have put pressure on the Washington Redskins to change their name. Obviously, the Redskins having pretty racist connotations. And it's been a topic for quite some time. We've talked about this with the Edmonton Eskimos as well, and there's the Cleveland Indians, and to a degree, even the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe, has been mentioned. But Redskins is pretty, like, in your face, racist mascot name. Dan Snyder, though, for those that don't know who he is a pretty hard-ass owner and is on record in 2013 saying, write this down, I'm never, ever going to change the team name. But now there's money coming into play, and FedEx is actually the naming sponsor of their stadium. So it puts a little more pressure, right? You attack their pocketbooks, and suddenly people start singing a different tune. I'm not going to ask whether or not you think they should change their name. I think that kind of goes without saying. It's long overdue, but do you think they will?
Yeah, this has been going on for quite some time. I think this is a way to put me on the spot here, Steve. I think that they will because of the current climate. It's very aggressive right now in terms of not just sports teams, but in reference to the Redskins, but to brands in general. Like you have like the Aunt Jemimas of the world and whatnot that are doing rebranding and stuff. So I think that they will almost kind of by default, like they'll kind of have to, because that's where everybody else is going. And I think that there's got to be an advisor in Dan Snyder's ear telling them that this is just the right thing to do, whether it's the right thing to do because the money's involved or morally. However, Dan Snyder kind of feels about it. I don't think it really matters. I just think that this is kind of the way things are going. And I think it's just going to happen. I can't say when it'll happen, but I think it's bound to.
Yeah. I think if I had to guess, they'll probably commit to changing it. Like they'll play this season out as the Washington Redskins and then probably have a process to get things changed by 2021. But hey, maybe that means new uniforms too. I think they try to keep the identity as close as they could, the same team color wise and everything. But
yeah, you could do it the same way as, or similar to the Edmonton Eskimos, so long as that's not considered racist as well. Otherwise, I'm in support of that. But there's something that's not. If the Eskimo is not. They're doing it right up there.
It kind of is. They're under quite a bit of fire. But the Edmonton Eskimos, like they could easily change theirs to the Edmonton Empire, right? So like there's that. There's something that they can do that would probably be better in respects to Native Americans. So
right, yeah.
But it's Dan Snyder, and he's a pretty stubborn guy. But
I mean, a total rebrand in the NFL wouldn't be so bad after all. Like it's been a while since there's been some change in the NFL.
There's money to be made, yeah. And rebranding, new jerseys, new apparel, like people buy that stuff. So
the Washington Hass Kings.
Yes, if they use it, we got to make sure we come back and say we thought of it. So
yeah,
Auzzie, the NFC South, and kind of ironically, we picked this division and then Cam Newton signed. So it's kind of like comes full circle because we're talking about Cam Newton. We're talking about Tom Brady. We talked about the Patriots. That's that synergy. It's all there. So let's start off, Auzzie, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll get right to the hot topic first. They've obviously added Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski this offseason. and then they tagged Shaq Barrett, and they've re-signed Ndamukong Suh and Jason Pierre-Paul.
Mm-hmm.
So just got that all stacked up. They lost Peyton Barber, running back. I was trying to look for other significant losses. It didn't look like they've sustained too many there. And then in the draft, they took Tristan Wirfs at tackle and Antoine Winfield Jr. at safety. So a really, really, really good offseason by this team. And now you have Bruce Arians and Tom Brady connecting. And I'm not sure. We talked about, earlier what that fit's going to look like, but these are two very bright football minds. Like, this isn't Madden where you're plugging Tom Brady into a system that doesn't fit him and now he's going to go and throw 20 picks. I think these guys can mold their styles and pick something or build something that really fits both of their needs and philosophies offensively. And Tom wanted a little more of that freedom because with Belichick, it was kind of Bill's way or the highway. So I think he kind of wanted to break out of that. And what better time than at 41 years old? Auzzie, all this being said, and I know I was very shocked when this was first announced that you said Bucs the Super Bowl, but I actually have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going 11-5 and winning this division.
Oh, winning the division.
Yeah.
Ooh. I guess I'll spill the beans. I also have them going 11-5, but
oh wow,
yeah, not winning the division.
Not good enough for the division.
Yeah, I know. And I think that what they've done is it's been so good. Like, you can't really pick a move that they've done this offseason and kind of second guess it. And that's high praise, but I think it's well deserved. The weaknesses going into this offseason for me after they addressed, going into the draft, O-line and secondary. And they go get Tristan Wirfs with their first pick, and then they go and get Antoine Winfield Jr. With their second pick. So you do that, and now all of a sudden you add Matt Miller describes Antoine Winfield Jr. as a Swiss Army knife who can play in the slot over the top.
Safety. Yeah.
Yeah. Walk up. Look, I got my notes here. He can set the edge against the run. So
wow.
Yeah. So he's a guy that can really do it all. He's a little undersized though. I think he's 5'9", so a little bit undersized there. But I mean, if he can really play that well, if he's got those good instincts, who says no as him being a key piece to that secondary. So I really like what they've done there. And then like you said, JPP being brought back, Ndamukong Suh, and then Shaq Barrett. I think Shaq Barrett, it's a matter of time before they get a long-term deal. It sounds like he really wants to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
So that fixes brings back the front seven, who was one of the top front sevens in the league last year. And by getting Winfield Jr., hopefully make that secondary a little bit better. I think they're 30th in terms of yards. So not too good there, but you're adding the pieces. And, I mean, you got Tom Brady there, so you can maybe win some shootouts. Winfield,
he kind of reminds me of like Earl Thomas, just what you read out there. Like Thomas that won't set the edge in the run, but I mean, he can lay a hit. And, they always call Thomas a center fielder, as far as like you can just put him in the center of the field in the back there and move your strong safety up to fill the box and do run support. So, and Thomas is a little undersized as well. I think he's taller than 5'9", and he might be 5'10". I don't think he's 5'11", but 5'10" sounds right. Okay. That's a huge addition for their secondary if those corners can kind of live up to the standard as well. So we both have 11-5. I'm really interested to see who you have in first place there. So I'm not going to say we're not going to go to the next team who I think it's going to be. We're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers next.
Steve, sorry to interrupt you. I just looked this up.
Yeah.
Earl Thomas is 5'8".
Wow.
Yeah. According to Google. And I don't know, Google sometimes could be wrong possibly.
That's crazy.
If that's the case, then holy crap, Winfield Jr. might actually, I don't know. I mean, he might fit that mold of a Earl Thomas, like you just said. That's pretty crazy.
I don't know why I'm Googling this I Googled it and I got 5'10".
Oh, what? Google. 1.78 meters. Oh, well, maybe.
Either way, though, that's pretty. I mean, we're talking about
amateur hour here.
Yeah, we're talking amateur agency. We're talking about an inch, and what's an inch here there?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Carolina Panthers.
Talk about. All right, let's go.
The Panthers. The Panthers. Yeah. The Dillon Panthers. No, the Carolina Panthers. They have added Teddy Bridgewater and Seth Roberts. So Teddy Bridgewater, we talked about that quite at length and whether or not he can be that franchise guy. He signed a 3-year deal. So I like this for the Panthers because it's not super high risk where you're locking him in for 5 years, but it also gives you some stability. I think Matt Rule signed like a 7-year deal with the Panthers. And we talked about when he got hired, his ability to turn around programs, but it's usually a slow start that first season. I think his first season in each of his college programs, they'd won like maybe 2 or 3 games. And then by the second year, 8, and by the third year, they were, 12, 13 win programs. So I think it's going to be that same kind of slow build. And when you lock a coach in for 7 years, you're obviously not looking to turn things around in 1. So Bridgewater is that perfect bridge quarterback. The it's dad joke central here, this episode, and I love it. Perfect bridge quarterback for this program while they look and scout. And Rule's just going to be very connected to the college program, as was Pete Carroll when he left college. And so he's going to have his ear to the programs and see who the next big quarterback's coming out, or an underrated one that can maybe grab in the 3rd round, develop for year 2 and 3 of Teddy. So really loved that move, and looking for other big additions. And I really wasn't seeing too many there, but their losses are big. They lost Cam Newton, Bruce Irvin, Eric Reed, Mario Addison, Vernon Butler, Gerald McCoy, and Greg Olson. So a lot of losses there, but it's to be expected with the rebuilding team.
And the quarterback, or not the quarterback, the linebacker, what was his name? He was always one of the best.
Luke Kuechly?
Luke Kuechly, yeah, he retired.
Oh, I thought he retired before last season. Why is that? Or that was Andrew Luck? My mind's all warped. I don't know what's going on. 2020's been 2 years. And then their draft, I'm trying to remember. I didn't even write down their draft like an idiot, but.
Oh, I got it covered, Steve.
You got it covered. Thanks. Let's jump over to Auzzie, and then I'll give my prediction.
I've got a crush on this Panthers team, man. Like they might be behind the Redskins. They might be like, so I got the Patriots, the Redskins, and it might be the Panthers as my third favorite team.
You mean Washington Football Club is what you mean?
Washington Football Club, yeah. Until we change that name.
Until we change the name.
So you've already mentioned some of the additions. You left out Robbie Anderson, actually, who was so him and Seth Roberts added to that the offensive weapons of Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, and Christian McCaffrey. And then you get Teddy Bridgewater in there. I think that offense is just going to be fast and loose and just hot and heavy, and whatever other adjectives you could conjure up with that. I'm super stoked about that offense. And then, so it's really funny how they made this work. Like Matt Rule, like you said, we've talked about his ability to develop a program, and in the draft they went all defense. So it was quite interesting. I think they had 7 or 8 picks, and all of them were defensive players. And I loved the top 3. My mouth is watering over here. I'm just so excited. So with their first pick, they get Derek Brown, who is my number 2 defensive lineman in my top 8 defensive lineman countdown. And then with their next pick, they get Yetur Gross-Matos, my 5th defensive lineman in the draft. So right there, you got Quan Short, Brian Burns, and now you add in Derek Brown and Yetur Gross-Matos. That is like for 4 players along the defensive line. That is nice. And then in this, then you have Shaq Thompson at linebacker, and Dante Jackson in the secondary. That defense is looking pretty nice. And that was me leaving out their 3rd draft pick, Jeremy Chin. So Steve, do you remember Isaiah Simmons, how everybody was just drooling over him?
Mm-hmm.
So he was considered a top safety or linebacker, for those who don't know, just because of the traits that he had, and he's going to be good at either one of those. And Jeremy Chin is like the Isaiah Simmons light. He's got that versatility. And yeah, exactly. So I think that now you have a player like that to replace Eric Reed, like you kind of mentioned, and who can drop down in the box and play linebacker if he needs to. You're going to need players like that in this division, where you have teams like the Saints with Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders. You've got the Bucs now with Gronk and Cameron Brate, OJ Howard. Just those are the tight ends. And then you got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So you're going to need some very athletic players in the secondary. And I think what what the Panthers have done there in getting Jeremy Chin. I think that's a great addition. And then you add to that front seven, and now that front seven is just, it's ready to get after the quarterback. You're going to need to get after Breeze and Brady really quick if you want to slow down these offenses that look like they're ready to just destroy. So that's why I'm just loving the Panthers right now. With that being said, Steve, I don't want to steal your thunder here because you're usually the first to give out the prediction.
Oh, thanks,
so
man.
what is your prediction? Then I'll give you mine.
So the Panthers for me kind of fall in that same category as like the Bengals and the Dolphins. Like you could tell they're building to something. Like I don't look at this team and be like, holy crap, like they're an absolute mess. You alluded to, they have a plan in place and they're working towards it. This isn't like the 2017 Cleveland Browns. You're just kind of like, what are they building here? They sign RG3. You got Deshaun Kaiser. Like, what's going on here? Like, there's a clear plan in place, and they clearly have like a 5-year plan here to go all defense in one draft. Like, you don't do that by accident. That's calculated. Mm-hmm. That being said, though, this year I think it's going to be a growing pain year, and this is going to be a long-term process. I have the Panthers going 5-11, but it's going to be if it's any solace to Panthers fans, it's going to be a competitive 5-11. Like, I don't see this team losing by big margins or, making a fool of themselves on every Sunday on national television. They're going to be playing some good football. Teddy's going to, win this team a couple of games, but I just compared to the rest of the division and what these other teams are capable of and the positions they're in to win now. I just see the Panthers, really battling out this year and getting five wins out of it.
Yeah, I was shaking my head because I was looking at what I had written down. And before I changed my prediction, I had them at a competitive 6-10. So you're like a competitive 5-11. But yeah. I changed it because looking at that, I was like, that's just not right. This team is just too good. They do have some, I would say they do have a need on the interior offensive line, so that could be a problem if you can get to the quarterback really quick, like Teddy Bridgewater especially, who's had an injury history, and he might be a little shell shocked back there. I can't say because we haven't really seen him all that much as a starter.
The Saints had a really good old line too. That should be noted. So, yeah.
So I hope that Teddy Bridgewater excels, and I hope that this offensive line can do him some favors. But with that being said, I still have them at 7-9. I just this, like you said, this division is way too good, and you've got the Saints and the Bucs who are right there, and then now you've got like Matt Rule, like you said, Steve. That first year is a little bit of a growing pain, and then after that, it's just goes from there. So
green pastures.
Exactly. So I think this year it's going to be a little bit of a growing pain, but it's not going to be that bad. I think they do have something to hang their hat on at 7-9.
There we go.
Wait. Yeah, 7-9.
7-9. Yeah.
I was like, wait, did I give him too many games? But no,
gave him 9-7 in a wild card spot. Okay, Atlanta Falcons, Auzzie. Dan Quinn, many thought would be fired coming into this offseason. Got to keep his job, arguably on his last year at this point now. Like, you have to turn things around. That Super Bowl trip was 4 seasons ago at the start of this year.
Crap.
19, 18, 17 they went. So I guess it's been 3 years, but they're going on their 4th year out of the Super Bowl. So, a year after that, they had a divisional round loss to the Eagles and then a couple missed playoff seasons. So it's been tough for them, 2016 they went. So yeah, it has been 4 seasons, 17, 18, 19. So last 2 years they've missed the playoffs after a disappointing loss to the Eagles in the divisional round. And that was the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Looking at their adds and losses here, it looks like they kind of just tried to maintain the status quo. They signed Todd Gurley, looking to add a little life into that offense. On paper, Todd Gurley by name is a big signing, but it really depends on how his knee holds up. That's been a big issue. We talked about that at length when he was signed. And they traded for Hayden Hurst after losing Austin Hooper to the Cleveland Browns. So, and then to kind of bounce into their losses, they let Vic Beasley walk. So I call that a loss, but they are obviously looking to show him the door. And then they also lost Desmond Trufant as well. And in the draft, they go and replace him with A.J. Terrell. And then they draft Marlon Davidson from Auburn in the 2nd round. So they made a couple moves there to try to push things along and maintain a competitive stature. But this team to me still just kind of screams mediocre. And I want this team to succeed because I'm not a Matt Ryan like fan, but I like him. I think he's a good quarterback, and he's been in the league since like 2008, and he's just a guy that like I'm pretty sure I picked him out of like the best of he's the best of the rest in my opinion. Like he's that quarterback that if you just give him some help and the right kind of offense, he can really take off. And I like Dan Quinn because I want to see someone from Pete Carroll's coaching tree succeed. But ever since that 28-3, it's been kind of there, and I think that can kind of continues. And we talk about teams that have a path and have direction, like the Panthers, even though they're only going to go 5-11-ish this year. I think I look at the team like the Falcons, and it looks like they're just doing enough to remain competitive, but not competitive enough. And that's why I have the Falcons going 7-9 this year, and that'll be third in the NFC South. So I see this team starting to trend downward. I think as Ryan gets older, he may, whether he resigns, I'm not sure what his contract looks like, or if he tries to get on with a competitive team. Dan Quinn, I think, is done after this year. You can't have 3 straight years of mediocrity and live to tell the tale. So, and Julio, who knows? Like, there's been rumors that he wants out. He wasn't one of the model players for their new uniforms, and so I have a lot of people speculating if like why wasn't he participating in that? So, a lot of different things going around. I still like Calvin Ridley and Julio, and now you got Todd Gurley on paper, which looks good. So this offense could be pretty potent, and that's why I don't think they're going to be like a 5-11 or 4-12 dumpster fire. I think they'll be competitive enough, but it's going to kind of be more or less of what we've seen the last couple of years, and I think that's going to cost Dan Quinn his job by January of 2021.
Yeah, I think you said a lot that I really would just be reiterating, Steve. I was looking at their free agency additions, and I was like, nothing really too fancy, nothing that rocks the boat too much, because like you said, Todd Gurley has a little bit of an injury history with that knee, and it really showed last year. And then but of Devontae Freeman and Todd Gurley, I'd say that he's certainly better at this point, just because Devontae Freeman also has an injury history. So yes, it's a big name, and it's kind of nice there. Dante Fowler could be a good replacement. He probably just keep putting up around Vic Beasley numbers, which has been mediocre as of late. So I'm with you. Like, they didn't really do a whole lot to add. AJ Terrell is going to be asked to do a lot in his first year. I think Isaiah Oliver might be their starting corner, but even then, I don't really know much about Isaiah Oliver. So is AJ Terrell going to be asked to come in and be the starter? Even if he has to be number 2, I think that's going to be a lot to ask for a rookie, even though he is coming out of a great program in Clemson. It's just going to be a lot to ask, and sometimes those corners can't make the transition that quickly. So I did like the Marlon Davidson addition, so I'll give the Falcons a little bit of credit here. I was looking at what their D-line had, and Marlon Davidson came from the same program that my guy Derek Brown came from. And Davidson actually showed that he wasn't a slouch either. He had 11.5 tackles for loss and 6.5 sacks in 2019. So sometimes you might want to, or what came to me, I was like, well, is that just because you had a wrecking force in Derek Brown on the defensive line?
Mm-hmm.
What will he do outside of that? And then I looked at the defensive line on the Falcons, and I was like, okay, well, maybe he could start putting up some big numbers in the NFL as well. You've got Tack McKinley, Grady Jarrett, now Dante Fowler, and Marlon Davidson all along the defensive line. Like, if you're a Falcons fan, that's definitely something to be excited about. It's beyond that, it's not great. Like, Keanu Neal is a great safety when he is healthy, but he's been injured the last few years, I believe. So it really does come down to how do these rookies step up to the plate. And I didn't even think about the Julio fiasco, because that's been reoccurring for I think 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's something to look out for too. I was a coward. I changed my prediction while you were talking about it, because you were talking so lowly of them, and I felt low about them. But then I was like, but Matt Ryan and Julio and stuff, and then I was like, okay, I'll give them 8-8. But I didn't really like that, so I actually dropped them down to 6-10.
Oh,
because
below the Panthers.
Yeah. I just don't see enough here to like they've tried to build the offensive line around. They did that last year, spending their two first round picks on offensive linemen. That didn't really pan out for them last year. Hopefully those guys can perform, but along the offensive line, it's a question mark. Julio could be a question mark, and you saying that was kind of what gave me a little bit of a push, because I was like, you know what, a little dysfunction is all a team needs to really crumble, and the Falcons are not a team that's going to be what's the word I'm thinking, safe from that kind of collapse. So I think that we could see something here, and it's not going to be pleasant for Falcons fans. Sorry.
Matt Ryan just called himself the best quarterback in the division on pardon my take a couple of weeks ago, I think. So when he listens to this, he's going to be none too pleased.
Yeah. When he listens to this, he's probably got to queue it up, honestly.
Yeah. It's going to be that bulletin board material, man, even though not many teams use bulletin boards anymore. But I just, it goes to show how important Super Bowl windows are. Like, it's probably becoming a cliche at this point. It's like, is their window open, or it's never been wider? But literally, like, you had a 25-point lead in a Super Bowl. That was probably your best shot to win a championship in the next 25 years. Like, you can't blow shots like that. And you've seen teams kind of rebound and still remain competitive after, pivotal Super Bowl losses. Like, the Steelers still had a pretty fruitful decade, all things considered, though disappointing, but it wasn't like missing the playoffs a couple of years in a row disappointing after their 2010 Super Bowl loss. The Seahawks have made it back to the playoffs every year except one since their Super Bowl loss. So, I mean, would those teams prefer to be winning championships? I'm sure, but the Falcons are starting to look like a team that's going to fall off the cliff here pretty quickly, and you have Matt Ryan exiting his prime. It's certainly not looking well. So it's a team trending down for me. And though they'll finish with, in my predictions, 2 wins better than the Panthers, when we're doing this again in a year from now, depending on what their moves and drafts looks like, I'll probably be predicting this team to win 4 games. So if Julio's out, then I'm out. So Auzzie, let's talk about the Saints last but not least. They kind of had a pretty quiet offseason as well. They go and add Malcolm Jenkins and Emmanuel Sanders. So, I mean, as quiet as you can be, those are 2 pretty big moves. And I think that's huge. Sanders to pair with Michael Thomas is awesome. You have Alvin Kamara in the backfield. They get Breeze back I think they did a 2-year top up with him.
I think you're right, yeah.
Or is it just a 1 year? I'm not sure. But they lose Teddy Bridgewater, their insurance policy, but they go and sign Jameis Winston instead. And they lost Eli Apple, Von Bell. And in the draft, they go and get Cesar Ruiz. Oh, I always butcher that. Ruiz. I'm going to stop saying it. Center. And Zach Bond in the 3rd round, who many had mocked in the end of the 1st round. So kind of a linebacker pass rushing hybrid that can probably bring some cool capabilities to that defense, because you can't have it on Cam Jordan's shoulders. So this team is really weird to me. And my prediction might be stupid, but I'm going to stick with it. I have the Saints going 9-7 and missing the playoffs. I'm calling for this year to be the year that Breeze actually falls off. They've had playoff disappointment after playoff disappointment for the last 3 seasons. And this is finally going to be the year where you talk about Super Bowl windows. They had theirs. It's closed now. It's no longer their division. It's no longer their conference. It's time to slide the key under the rug and take her back down until you figure out who your quarterback of the future is. Because I think this team is you can stick a fork in them.
What? Steve Bolin, hot take master.
Yeah.
What? I am shocked. That threw me for a loop, and missing the playoffs.
That's why I wanted to save it for the last. Well, yeah, I have in my other predictions, I have 2 10-6 teams in the NFC East.
Oh my God.
I think it's very possible, though I don't think it will happen. We'll wait till we get our NFC West predictions. You could have 4 teams coming out of the NFC West if you really thought about it, depending on what the Rams do. I think 3 might be a lock. I'm just saying, we used that for a title last time, but I'm just saying we're going to wait till we get to our NFC West predictions. But there's just too many players and contenders in this conference, and I think the Saints are going the wrong way. And Breeze is finally going to fall off. And I'm doing like a Max Kellerman who had been calling for Brady to fall off for the past decade, and it never happened. But I think right now, I love the talent on this team, but I think the emotional drag of the last 3 years is finally going to come home to roost. And they're not going to go 4-12 here. They're going to be competitive, but they're going to lose a lot of games where everyone's going to be like, what the hell? and they're going to just miss out on that 7th seed, and that's going to be that.
Over you. Steve and Bolin. Wow, I couldn't have been more off from you, man.
I can't wait for you to tell me how stupid this is, because they're going to talk about how good their roster is. But
yeah, I pulled up their roster because I remember looking at it pre-show, and I was like, oh wow, this defense is really freaking good. And then I looked at the offense, I was like, oh wow, I can't really spot a hole. So I'm gonna say that I'm gonna stick to my guns on that. Like I didn't look at this team and thought there's anything wrong with them. Like there's just not. So
there's not. But I'm going on gut instinct here. I just have a bad feeling about the Saints in 2020, and I'm going psychological factor in here. You had the Minneapolis Miracle, you had the non-PI call the year after that, and then you had Kirk Cousins decide he's an elite quarterback for a game, send you home in the wild card round. So, I mean, I don't know how much more heartbreak this franchise can take. If I'm them, I'm just emotionally drained from the past half decade, and I'm done, and that's it.
And I'm done. Oh my God, man. Okay. So if you'll give me 2 seconds here, So I'm just looking at this. Like you've got Marshawn Lattimore in the secondary. Marcus Davenport was a 1st-round pick. You've got him on defensive end, opposite of Cameron Jordan. You've got Malcolm Brown, who's a run-stuffing defensive tackle from the Patriots, so I know he's good. David Onyemata, who's Canadian, I'll have you know, and he was one of the better defensive tackles. I think he was on the free agent market this year. So that's you got some defense there, and Demario Davis at linebacker. So you've got some pretty good defenders right there, Steve Bullen. So you're just saying it all falls down on the freaking quarterback play. Is that what you're telling me? Or do you just think that
I don't know, like this team on paper every year I've predicted them being in the Super Bowl. So this might be a personal vendetta on my end. I've had them being in the Super Bowl, and then they somehow don't even make it there. And I'm just end up baffled. I don't think Breeze is going to come out and put up like a Tom 2019 season where everyone's going to be kind of like, wow, you can really visibly see it. Like he'll probably still throw 30 touchdowns and lots of yards, but I think they're going to lose some games by like a game-winning field goal, or they're gonna drop some contests that you otherwise wouldn't think they would have usually dropped, and they're gonna lose the games to like the contending teams, and they're gonna end up with a 9-7 record. Could be 10-6, but I can't have too many 10-6 teams. I already have enough of them. And
it's like 9-7 teams in the AFC for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
so
everybody gets 9-7.
Everyone gets 10-6 in the AFC or NFC. Can't have it. So 9-7. They'll be competitive, but they're not making the playoffs.
Wow. Okay, so I guess I got to give my prediction, and I think that with those defenders that I even just mentioned, and it's not all about the defense, but I mean, defense is a good starting point. We already know that Michael Thomas is, like, if not the best wide receiver in the game, he's top 3. And you got Emmanuel Sanders, as you mentioned, Steve. So I really love this offense. The offensive line, no problems there whatsoever. Running backs, Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, love them. But so for me, it comes down to what do they have on defense? Where is the hole? Well, you just add Malcolm Jenkins, who played 100% of snaps for the Philadelphia Eagles last year. That can't hurt. And then, like I said, Onyemata, I think he was a free agent. You bring him back. Get Zach Bond some depth behind Kiko Alonso. I'm just thinking, like, this team is ready to go.
Yeah.
And so I have them, like, we couldn't be more far apart, man. I don't have them going 16-0 or anything, but 12-4, a nice respectable 12-4. And I have them as Super Bowl contenders.
Ooh.
Because where's the, like, unless Drew Brees
we've said that the last 3 years, though. Where's the hole? Well, it ends up it's exposed in the most important time of the year. And you know what, Auzzie?
No, they're making it to the big game. They're
just working their way. Yeah,
they're close.
Breeze is about to fall off a physical cliff here, and like they just that slow grind. Hey, Auzzie, you know what? On paper they look good, but games are won and lost on the gridiron. Don't forget it.
Oh, I know. They're such a playoff choke artist. I get it, but oh my God, I can't look at this team. Maybe I'm a paper, whatever that you want to call it, like a paper hype artist or something. Like, whatever. I'm looking at this team on paper. I'm just freaking loving it. I'm hyping it up. as a paper hype artist would. And that's all I got to say. They're a Super Bowl contender in my eyes. No, they're not going to beat my Jimmy Garoppolo-led
Oh, God. Wait till we get to the NFC
49ers.
West.
I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I just can't believe it.
You know what, Auzzie? We'll end this one with a dad joke. Send me to hell because I'm out on the Saints.
Holy crap.
Oh, man.
What a life.
Anyways, let's recap. And I wish I had my sheet here now. So I have the Buccaneers at 11-5 and in first place in the NFC South. Second place, the New Orleans Saints at 9-7 and missing the playoffs. The Atlanta Falcons at 7-9, and the Carolina Panthers at 5-11, but a competitive 5-11. Hey, maybe they sweep the Saints, and that's what cost them the two big games. Saints could have been 11-5, lose a couple stinkers to the Panthers. That's the competitive 5-11 in them.
A couple of stinkers.
Care to recap your division there, Auzzie, and we'll move on.
Yeah, I've got the Saints, the Super Bowl contending Saints at 12-4. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 11-5, a nice respectable 11-5. Then I've got the Carolina Panthers at 7-9. That's my NFC South team of the year. Screw the Bucs. Just kidding. Love you, Tom. And then the Falcons at 6-10 because the Falcons are just trash this year. It's just going downhill.
Going downhill.
Just commit to the rebuild.
Just do what the Panthers are doing, then we'll be more optimistic. Not a lot of CFL news to be had, guys. It's still sad boy hours here. I'm wearing my Weston Dressler jersey out of respect, missing the CFL. And not a lot of developments coming out. I think they've determined that if there is a season, they're going to choose Winnipeg as a hub city. So that would be really cool if they did that. I think they've had very low COVID cases and, just not a lot of population around there. I think after Winnipeg, it really disperses and you don't have a lot of people coming in and out of there. And I think Regina is being talked about, which would be cool. We've talked about this. And then BC or Vancouver would be another great option. They were obviously in contention for the NHL hub city, which ended up being awarded to Edmonton and Toronto. But obviously, if you have that going on there, I don't think you can bring in the CFL teams there. There's probably not enough amenities to go around. But I'm hoping for the best for the CFL season. Keeping our fingers crossed. We can only deliver the information we have given to us, but we do want to tease a really cool interview we're getting in the works to set up, hopefully for episode 70 next week. I guess we'll give them a hint. Former Calgary Stampeders offensive lineman, but current BC Lions offensive lineman. So hopefully, depending on how in tune you are at the CFL, you go do your research, you'll know. But really excited to have him on and bring some more content.
Isn't he an Edmonton Eskimo?
Oh, yeah, did he go to the Eskimos now? He was on the Lions. Wow.
Wow. Way to tee him up. Yeah, you threw off our listeners. So that's this is for you to maneuver through the puzzle.
Yeah.
And you will come out on the other side having known who our guest is.
Exactly. So you'll know when we probably announce it early next week. So if we can get the time lined up. So that's something to be excited for, because even if there's not football to be watched right now, I'll be really interested to hear what his off season's been like and kind of the different initiatives he's been involved in and what he's been doing to try to stay ready and stay prepared, and what his thoughts are on some of his peers retiring to pursue other activities. So lots to talk about. Really excited to have him on. You can find me on Twitter at SteveBolin22. And if there's any Saints fans out there, I'd love to have a chat. You're going to bring stats and data to your argument. Don't waste your time. I'm just going to get based on gut instinct and mental mind here, the brain games. And you can find me on Instagram at SteveBolin_. Be sure to check out all our agency accounts at The Amateur Agency on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and YouTube. Auzzie, where can the fine folks find you?
Well, you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at AustinPaul_. That's Austin with a Y, not an I. And keep that in mind, Falcons fans, when you start approaching me, because, there's not a lot of you out there, but, you're there. And you probably need somebody to talk to because it's been a rough couple of years.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to want to confide in a Pats fan, the team that just eviscerated their...
Yeah, I'm sorry we did that to you, but I'm really not that sorry. So, I'm a douche. Okay, sorry.
And be sure to follow Zach. We'll be back. Zach will be back in a couple weeks at Zach Foth. No underscore necessary in his Twitter name, but I think it's Zach Foth _ on Instagram. So looking forward to having him back. He's just been busy living the dream. So make sure we squeeze that one in for the episode. All right, that concludes episode 69. We made it through the whole episode without making a 69 joke. So very good job, Auzzie and myself. Catch you guys next week with our interview. Godspeed.